Thank you, and welcome everybody to our Zoom roundtable discussion this morning. Our topic of discussion is Girl, Take Your Power Back. And this event has been sponsored by the Dlalisa Moyeni Foundation. So we are very, very happy to have Tumisang Skosana, who is the founder director of the Dlalisa Moyeni Foundation. And she will be talking to us a bit more about the foundation towards the end of our roundtable discussion. Then we also have the pleasure of having Charlotte Matsie, who's been a victim of abuse, Vikki Moonsamy, who's a media specialist, Madelein Pretorius, industrial psychologist, myself, Botha, I'm an HR strategist and executive coach. And then Brandon van Wyk will be handling our chat box. And I ask you to enable your chat box so that he can read any messages or questions that you may have for us. So we're going to have a free-flowing conversation this morning around the topic. If I could just, for housekeeping rules, mention that microphones will be disabled for the audience during the roundtable discussion, but the panel members will actively participate. Please type any questions that you may have in the chat box, and at the end of our roundtable, we will try and take as many of the questions as we can. We will also be staying longer than 11 o'clock if there are discussions that we feel is important to continue. But Brandon will post an email address, which is info@dlalisamoyenifoundation.org.za. But he will post that in the chat box so that you can raise any further issues or ask any guidance or assistance that you may need. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our psychologist, Madelein Pretorius, to kick off this very topical conversation. Madelein, thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you very much to the Foundation and to Tumisang for the opportunity to speak with you this morning. As Christine said, it's a discussion, a roundtable discussion, but I thought it would be good to maybe just talk a little bit about the concept of abuse and the different types of abuse that we find. And to before we hear about Charlotte and the experiences that she had to endure. So I think, you know, what comes to mind often with abuse is the physical part of abuse. But I think it is important to remember that abuse is not normally apparent at the start of a relationship. A relationship may begin with the appearance of it being very normal and loving, but then abusers start to use their tactics as the relationship progresses in order to control and to manipulate their partner. So this behavior can start out so slowly that you often don't even realize that it is happening. You don't notice it, you think that it's normal or that it's just part of how things are. And we're not often aware that actually this behavior from our partner is abuse. And then there's different types of abuse. As I said, we often think about abuse as physical, which it definitely is, and it can escalate to that in a lot of instances. But we also have emotional abuse, and I think that is sort of one of the big categories of abuse that we often see come through as well. And that is really where your abuser will use your emotions or use emotions as a tool for your abuse. So it's not maybe physical, but it is using emotions, criticizing you, embarrassing you, shaming you, blaming, manipulation, all with the purpose of wearing you down, wearing your self-esteem down, and really to undermine your mental and physical health. And often what we see there is maybe not the physical signs, the bruises and the cuts and everything that goes with the physical abuse, but it causes health problems to women to all victims of abuse. So you often see depression coming through, eating disorders, stomach ulcers, insomnia, anxiety, those type of things that you would also see, but it's maybe not a physical sign. So emotional abuse, I think, is also very, very prevalent and often not categorized as abuse because we don't see those physical signs. You also get financial abuse, where the abuser will make sure that the victim doesn't have funds available for basic necessities. And again, it's all about control. It's all about being in control of the situation, being in control of the victim's life. So even if that person might be earning an income, abusers tend to find a way to get their hands on that income, whether they make you pay for more things or whether they, far more overtly force you to hand over whatever you earn to them. You also get stalking. I think, Christine, maybe you will also refer to that a little bit later. I think it's maybe something that happens a lot in the workplace environment or in your community. Might not be your direct partner or the person in your house or in your immediate surroundings, but somebody who's just forever in the background stalking you, making you uncomfortable, and through that process also abusing you. There's the very obvious sexual abuse as well, which then also could quite quickly escalate into that violent physical abuse as well. And then I think a type of abuse that we often see coming out these days as well is the more digital abuse. So using the digital platforms, whether it is your WhatsApp platform, your Facebook, email, whatever means is available to either keep track of you or to send abusive messages to the victim, controlling them and abusing them in that way. I think from a psychological background of abuse, it's important to understand that it really is about power and control. So often we see that abusers don't actually see anything wrong with what they're doing. For them, it is just a way of controlling you and being in control in the situation. It's often not as much about the violence as it is about having that total control over somebody. And so that's just a very short, I think, summary and background to abuse. But I would like to actually hand over to Charlotte to share her story and to make these things real and give us her example. So thank you for your courage to do that. Charlotte, I'm handing over to you then.
Thank you, Madelein. Thank you very much. My name is Charlotte. I am 29 years old. I have a son. He's 6 years old. So my abuse started when I was still in primary school, doing my high school. So it happened that I've been stalked without me knowing. This guy was apparently every time there where I used to be. So it happened that one day he bought us food, me and my friend, and he was like, I'll pay for everything. It's just a local food store where we buy food. And then he offered to buy us food. And I'm one person that I don't just take things easily. I ask questions. Why are you buying us? What's the motive behind this? And he was like, no, it's fine. I'm just buying you guys food because I see every time you come here and buy food. Okay, then. He bought us food, not knowing that that's when I got into a relationship that I was not even aware of, or saying that I agreed to that relationship. So I was still in grade 8. He didn't want me to go to school anymore. He was always there at school, like looking after me. Telling me that boys are not supposed to be talking to me. I shouldn't be making any friends at school. And because I was still young, I thought that's normal. And from my family view, I didn't have that close relationship with either my mother or my siblings. I didn't have any relationship with them. So the only person that I had a close relationship, it was my father, but unfortunately by that time, he was long past. So eventually I dropped out of school because he beat me up every time when I get home, maybe 4:05 or a minute after 4. It was like, where were you? What were you doing? Were you with men? You were sleeping with men and stuff. So he beat me up to that extent that I'd feel less of a woman, you know? And for me, not having support, it was very difficult. I remember the last time that he beat me up, I told myself, I remember it was Valentine's Day. We were having a function at school. He asked his friend to come and fetch me. So apparently his friend didn't get me where he was supposed to get me. So he went and fetched him. While I was waiting for a taxi, they came. He got out of the car. He took my bag. My bag was all over the street. Vikki, you have passed the street when you were coming to me. Yes. He pushed me inside the car. He kicked me. He slapped me. We went to his house. He forced himself to me. I was so confused because this happened twice, and I couldn't say to anyone that, look, I'm being abused. Well, the teachers were there for me, but I was so scared to that extent that I felt like that guy is looking around me. He's everywhere. His soul is with me, you know? And then that's when, after he forced himself to me, he went out. He didn't lock the door. I managed to get off the bed, you know, put my clothes, my school clothes on, looking for my bag, not realizing that it was left on the street. And by the time I noticed that the door is open, I went out. I ran, and when I was about to reach home, I saw my mom. And when she saw me coming down the street, she felt that there's something wrong, because I saw this bag, and this bag, it only belongs to my baby, because she's the only one that carries that pink and black bag. And it was that time when Kerimo and Red Mountain was introduced, you know. So most of the kids didn't have those bags. So when we went in the house, she shouted at me because she didn't know what was happening. Why are your school bag is in the street? What's going on? When she realized, when I lifted my face, that I've got a blue eye. And that's when she asked me, what's going on? I told her that I met this guy, he's been abusing me. And I don't remember saying that, yes, I agree to be in a relationship with him. I was scared to tell you because I thought maybe you'd say, you know what, you getting into your teenagers now, you busy with boys, you'd be judging me and stuff. So that guy came later on with his family. They came, and, you know, I didn't see any remorse on his face. I didn't see any guilt on his face. I just saw that it was normal for him to do that. And I'm sorry to say this, but African men do tend to keep that thing, to say the woman, or a woman, the housewife will obey my rules. That's how they are. So when they got into my house, it was just that thing to say, we're here to demand Charlotte to come with us. I'm not even married to that guy. We just met that day, and then eventually things happened the way it happened. Luckily, and I'm grateful to say, my mom was there to support me, to say, no, actually, you've been abusing my child, and I didn't even know of you doing this. You've been coming to my house. I thought maybe you guys are okay, but only to find out you abusing my child. And that's when it ended. Unfortunately, a month after he passed on, I must say, thank God he did, because he once told me that I'll never, ever find another man and live my life the way I want. He will always be there. Always be there. Whether I like it or not, he's going to make my life miserable. Even when I told him that it was over, he told me that it's not over until I say so. I'll haunt you, and I'll come to your place. I'll break your windows. I'll find you if I have to find you. So unfortunately, he passed on, and which is a good thing. Thank God, because for me, I feel that I was not going to be where I am today, because he was going to make my life a mess. Already, it was a mess. I grew up with this abuse in my mind. I even now that I'm raising my son alone, I sometimes think and convince myself that maybe it's because of he never had a father. My son doesn't have that support from his father, you know. I think that some abuse comes from backgrounds, but that's not an excuse to beat up a woman or beat up a man, because abuse is really destroying you inside. It destroyed me to that extent that I've tried so many times to kill myself. I drank pills. I have scars here. Like, yeah, it was difficult for me. But through God and through the support that I found from other women sharing their stories to me and telling me that I also been abused, I grew to that. I'm a mother now. I'm a woman now. I'm brave enough to say I have been there. I know how it feels. Sometimes people will judge you and say, why aren't you getting out in that relationship? Look, it's not easy, because I might be fortunate that it didn't happen for a long time, but some women are there facing it every day, and they can't say, I'm going out, because maybe they're locking them in the house, maybe they're using weapons, maybe they use everything. They use everything, and once your mind tells you that you can't do this, you can't. Your physique already, it won't do that. If you let the fear control you, it will always be there with you. But if you overcome that fear and say to yourself, it's enough, I can't take it anymore. I mean, someone can come and tell you that, Charlotte, I can't believe you're still staying with that man, and yet you say he's abusing you. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know what I face every day. Don't beat up yourself if you are one of the women that are in that particular relationship or particular abuse. All I'm asking is that fight your fear. Pray to God to give you strength. It's not easy. I know, I've been there. But once you have overcome that fear, trust me, you will get out of that situation. And after I lost, I came out in that abusive relationship, here comes his friend, the boyfriend that I was dating. His friend came in the picture. He came as a consoling person, not knowing that he was also in that lane of saying, Charlotte, I own you. That guy took me one weekend and he was like, let me just take you out. Me and my wife and kids, we're going out with you because you have lost your boyfriend and we've seen that you were so loving and stuff. We went, only to find out he was not even taking me to his wife. He was taking me to this, one of the bushes, there was a house there. I think it was a farmhouse. It was there for years. And when I entered there, you could see even those spider webs and stuff that no one was living in that house for many years. When we got there, he pushed me out of the car. He pointed me with the gun. He told me that If you don't undress, or if you tell anyone about this, I'm going to kill you. And in that moment, I felt like I'm dying. That guy kept me in that house for weeks. I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking anything. There were dogs outside. I couldn't even run away. I was so scared of him that I thought maybe he's sleeping around, maybe in the yard. He'd come and rape me the way he wants, sleep with me. Like every time that he was there, I was smelling. I remember when I got out of that house, the doors were open. He took the dogs for a walk. That's when I saw an opportunity to go out. There were so many times that I went back and forth and asking myself, am I going to do this? Am I able to do this? Am I going to run? Is he not going to see me? Are the dogs around? You know, my mind was playing games, and I told myself, you know what? I am going to go out. If he shoots me, then so be it. I went out and I ran. I ran again for my life. And across the bushes, there's a tree, and behind that tree, there was a shack. I went in that shack. I got this lady. She was busy doing her laundry. I asked her, please, can you hide me? Can you hide me, please? She didn't hesitate because she was doing laundry. She just said, sleep here. I'll just put the laundry on top of you. She did that. That guy came after, I think, 30 minutes or so. He was looking for me. I heard his voice. I thought, I'm dying. Today I'm dying. If he finds me here and this poor woman, she's trying to help me and probably she'll be in danger as well. But that didn't happen. She just said, no, I didn't see the lady passing here. Maybe she went another way. He went another way. She called the cops. The cops got in that shack and got me there. And that's when I explained to them that what was happening. We went to the clinic. They took some tests. They didn't arrest him. They told me that I should go do a protection order before they can arrest him. I felt like the police are failing me because how am I going to go and do a protection order and they're not even taking me there? I have to go there by myself. I went home. They took me home after doing the test at the hospital. They took me home. My mom was not there. They got my brother. They asked my brother that they will come back as soon as my mom got there. You know, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether I should back. I was so disgusted when I see myself. I had bruises all over my body. I was not proud to be a woman that day. And I thank God that there are men outside there that are willing to help, you know. So my mom came and they explained to her that this is what's happening. I don't have a close relationship with my mom. She didn't understand how did all this happen. She didn't give me that support that I needed at that time. Well, she gave me the money to go do the protection order. I did it in Vereeniging. When I got there, instead of women supporting me, I was supported by male. They took me from Vereeniging to this side and they served him with a protection order. And I still have those words that the policeman said to this guy. He said to him, you know what, if you dare touch her, I don't mind going to jail for you. I do not mind going to jail for you. I think that policeman came this side in Annandale to work just to see if I'm safe. He's the one who made me feel safe because he was always there asking me, checking me, is he around? What's going on? If you're going to another street that he's maybe approaching, what does he do? He forced the police to do a stop and search every time they see a male. He did that because I came out and said to him, you know what, this guy has abused me, and he has did so many bad things that I didn't even think of that it would happen to me, but I wouldn't like it to happen to another woman. He put a stop to that. So I've been abused twice. And the second one, it was so emotional for me even now, because guns were pointed at me. Dogs were there. You can even ask Quentin the first time he fetched me and I saw a dog. I was so frustrated and I asked him, please, Quentin, can I be safe with you? That's how it is. You do not have to let your fear control you, because once that happens, you're not going to go out of that abusive relationship that you are in. I've
Charlotte,
been there. I know how it feels.
yeah,
And
Charlotte.
yeah.
Thank you so much on that very strong note about taking your power back and the fact that although we don't always feel it, but there is support around us. There are people willing to help us. Madelein, maybe you would like to just respond to what Lerato just told us.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you for sharing your story and being brave enough to do that. I think, you know, if I listen to your story, you've been through so many things that I think a lot of women in that situation have been through. You know, I specifically listened to where your fear in that. And I think, you know, your whole comment about if you're not going to face your fears and not fight them, you're going to remain in that. But I also really appreciate you saying, also to the other women listening, don't judge. You know, nobody can understand what it is that you are going through, because a victim of abuse in that situation is often completely paralyzed by fear. And it's easy for somebody on the outside to say, but just leave, just go. But that fear is so overwhelming, and so to the point that it paralyzes you, that people can't even make that decision to protect themselves or their children. They just don't actually have the resources. I think you were saying your body couldn't do that. Physically, you couldn't actually do that. And that's often the case. And it's probably quite easy for somebody on the outside to say, but you know, there's people that can help you. Go, phone a foundation, phone a shelter, phone the police. There will be people to help you, but it is that fear that's controlling your mind that is so strong that you really cannot go, you know, do something about it. And it's often hard for people to understand it, but there's lots of factors that can contribute to that as well, whether it's emotional. You were saying they lock you up. It's isolation. You can't actually get out of it. Economic factors, legal factors, societal factors. Often the abuser is a well-known person in the community, and you fear that you won't be believed if you do say this. So a lot of that, I think, you've experienced, and thank you for sharing that. But there is really no excuse for abuse. You know, a lot of women will feel that, you know, maybe he will change, or they make promises to you that, you know, I'm going to go for therapy, I'm going to go for help, or and you want to believe that, you want them to be better, but there is no excuse, and all of that is actually just excuses. Lots of theories whether abusers are, whether it's a deeply psychological issue or whether they're just hardened criminals. It ranges literally from that. But the fact is, it's not your fault, and you should not have to sit up with that or put up with that. So I think your story is such a brave one of victory at the end. I'm so glad that you shared that. I think everybody, I know I feel quite emotional just listening, going through that. So yeah, that was fantastically brave. Thank you so much for that. I think just one thing from my side is, you had a very brutal, very violent example. It's not always like that, and I just want the people in the audience to understand that maybe the situation that you are in is not so brutally violent, but it can also still be abuse. So you feel misused and mistreated, and especially if it's a repeated action, then that is abuse, and you should take action against that. You have done nothing to deserve that. It is not the way it's supposed to be, and you should take action. And often there's a cycle of these things. They show remorse and they feel sorry, and it's actually a bit of a honeymoon period after that, and they take you out and give you gifts and, you know, almost soften you up before that tension starts to build up again, and then it erupts again, and then that cycle just continue. So be aware of that cycle. When you go into that honeymoon phase, it is going to go back into that violent cycle again. Be aware of it, know the signs, know the triggers, and make sure that you start building a plan for that. But I think we can talk a bit about that later. I don't want to take all the time, Christine. I don't know if you want to hand over to somebody else, but thank you so much, Charlotte, for your story.
Thank you, Madeleine. I think from my side, I just want to say that you mentioned right in the beginning, it's all about power. And it's all about power over you. And the abuser knows how to find their victims. You know, it's often a person that appear to be weaker or smaller or vulnerable, and that person then start believing that they have done something to deserve it. And in the end, it is so mentally and emotionally exhaustive for the victim that they feel helpless, they feel unsupported, they feel they have nobody to turn to. Like Charlotte, in your case, you even felt that you couldn't speak to your own mother, and yet support came from all sorts of directions. And I just want to tell you that from an HR perspective, that we often also see abuse in the workplace. And the abuser, I'm not going to go into the profile of the abuser. Madeleine has done that very adequately, but it's all about just believing that even though you feel weak and you feel vulnerable, that you are supported. Now, in the workplace, the abuse is even more difficult because often the abuser sits in a position of power, and you feel that you are powerless against this person. And fortunately for us, according to our law, the employer has the duty to provide a safe working relationship for employees. And that is a workplace that's free of abuse, free of violence, free of discrimination, and any risk to the employee. And we actually have the Occupational Health and Safety Act, we have the Labour Relations Act, and we have the Employment Equity Act that's very, very clear on that. The Act also requires employers to have a code of good conduct, and it's actually just a list of how people should behave in the workplace and what they should and should not do to other people. And they're also obliged to have a grievance procedure. So if you don't always get the protection internally, you always have the remedy to go externally, because you can take these matters to the CCMA or the Labour Court. And then you've also got the option to open a criminal case against the perpetrator, and also a civil law case. So there are so many remedies, and even if you are fearful, to understand that there is power in the system. Like in the workplace, for instance, abuse is seen as an act of violence and hostility. And even if it's verbal, even if it's via any medium, if it's via email, telephone calls, late night messages, WhatsApp, whatever it may be, it is violent and it is hostile. The important thing is that in the workplace, the burden of proof is on the employer. So the perpetrator and the employer has to prove that the violence did not take place. So it's not up to Charlotte or the victim to go and prove a case and say, here is my evidence that I have been assaulted or abused in any way, or violated in any way. If you get that feeling that you are being violated or abused, that's sufficient information to say, I feel threatened in the workplace. I do not feel safe in my place of work. So the perpetrator and the employer have a joint liability to prove differently. So I thought I'll just very quickly talk about what processes are there available for people who experience abuse in the workplace. The first thing is that your process follows that you should stand up to the abuser and tell the abuser to stop the abuse. If you have the courage and you can do it, that is ideally your first step. If you can do it in the presence of a witness, even better. Your second step, if it doesn't stop, is then to go and speak to a senior person in the organization, somebody that you feel you can trust. You mentioned a Quinton just now. That person can be in the form of a general manager, even the CEO of the company, or you can go to your HR department for support. I know that in real life, sometimes your grievances aren't taken seriously, but then just to understand that once you follow the grievance procedure and you're not heard, you will then refer the matter to the CCMA, because abuse in the workplace or victimization or intimidation is automatic unfair dismissal of an employee. So you've got a very, very strong case. After which, of course, there's the labor law, and I already mentioned the criminal and civil remedies that are available to you in the workplace. So this is the protection that is offered to people that are being abused in the workplace. And I would really love to also just hand over to Vikki to talk a bit about what role the media can play in supporting women that are being abused. Vikki from Aphrodite Media.
Hi everyone. Well, I think right now, you know, the focus on women should be holistically. And I think women need to take their power back. So, you know, the topic for today is Girl, Take Your Power Back. Should be in every form. It's not just abuse, it's in every form, whether it's from a financial perspective in a work environment, whether it's standing up to a dominant male partner or a male family figure. It's just taking back your power and owning yourself. And the media needs to play a bigger part, because the media tends to sensationalize a lot. We sensationalize everything. The reason Corona is so big is because of media. The media's taken a stand in the Gaza politics or the Middle Eastern politics or anything like that. So if we could take a stand and we focus on women issues and we focus on women empowerment, and what the media tends to do currently is focus on the negative. So we focus on the abuse, we focus on the wrongdoings of everything that's happening around women, but we're not focusing on the empowerment. We're not celebrating women enough. We're not focusing on the achievements of women all over, in politics, in the workplace, in NPOs, everywhere. So women need to be celebrated. And I think the media needs to take a stand in that and needs to focus on that. We need to start focusing on women, uplifting them, empowering them. When they are uplifted and empowered, women are able to stand up to anything they faced. And women are multitaskers. So we can be family women, we can be business women, we can be workers, friends, you know, caregivers. And we have so much power and we have so much to offer, but we just feel belittled. And we feel it's just our abuse or the negativity around us that's highlighted and it's not the empowerment. So I call out, and I did a video not so long ago about the media industry taking a stand against gender-based violence. And what I also find is that we tend to focus on women issues and women empowerment during the time of Women's Month, or Women's Day is celebrated, or International Women's Day is celebrated, excuse me. Why aren't we doing it every day? Why isn't every day or every month Women's Month and Women's Day? Why is there a particular time that we have to highlight these issues, or we have to speak about empowerment, or we have to speak about the issue, the frustrations of women or the abuse of women? It should be an everyday thing. In this country alone, we have so many deaths at the hands of people close to us, you know, lovers, partners, family members. And what are we doing to fight that? What are we doing to take our power back? Are we just going to wither like a flower and expect organizations like Tumisang's organization to come in and assist? No, we have to stand up, and the media needs to empower women to do that. We have to focus on building women. We have to focus on highlighting, once again, as I say, their achievements and their capabilities and the strengths that they have, instead of only focusing on how we are the weaker sex, supposedly. So from a media perspective, you know, I call out to my media partners and my media colleagues to get involved and to start focusing on empowerment, as opposed to just focusing on the last rape or the last death. What about the empowerment? What are we teaching our daughters? What are we teaching our sons? What are we teaching our colleagues? You know, I want to empower the people in our company at Aphrodite Media to take a stand, to be vocal about what they want. We're working very closely with Tumisang's organization, where the boys need to be taught how to be better men. And by being better men, it's not only the woman that has to protect herself. The man needs to know, the boy child needs to grow up into a man that knows how to treat a woman. And a woman, you need to teach people how to treat you. And if you allow abuse, or you allow a person to speak down to you, or you allow a person to undermine your value, then you're teaching them how to treat you. But if you stand up for your rights, and you stand up for your empowerment, and you stand up for your achievements, and you say, hey, I'm here to be celebrated, I'm here to be recognized, I'm here to be uplifted and elevated because this is my skill, this is my power, then we teach people how to treat us, and they'll treat us accordingly. And Charlotte, I listened to your story. It's heartbreaking, but it's also uplifting, because the people in the audience need to know, or will learn from this, that it's not okay. It's not okay to just let the first time slide, because as the old adage goes, you know, a leopard doesn't change its spots. We wouldn't want to keep that as a norm. But if a person's going to project violent or abusive behavior initially, it's going to be a perpetual cycle, unless the person is healed himself. Insecure people project their insecurities and they deflect on you. So thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. It's the first time I've heard about it. And I want you to now take your power back. Thank you. Over to you, Christine. Can't hear you. Hi, Christine.
Sorry.
Now we can hear you.
I was just muted for a moment. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So thank you so much, Vikki. That was so inspirational, and it is so lovely to hear that you use your influence in the media to also put women out there, and that it becomes a celebration rather than staying in a place of being the victim, but that we own our power and that we take our power back. And so I'm so excited about the work that Tumisang's organization is doing. And I would really like to give her the opportunity to tell us more about her projects that she's busy with. And, you know, for me, it just sounds like they've come up with a beautiful long-term sustainable plan and solution to the problems that we are faced with every day. So, Tumisang, if I may hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Christine. Sure, Lerato's story was just so moving, and I'm sitting from a perspective of the perpetrators, because our organization has realized that the world is not a good place. We've got perpetrators, we've got people who are evil. You know, how do you take a little girl and put her in a shack and leave her to starve and rape her repeatedly? Like, who does that in their right mind? But the thing is, that man is someone's son, and he's a human being, and he needs help. And unfortunately, we become so angry and so absorbed with what these perpetrators do that we don't actually have remedies for them, you know. So Dlalisa, Moyeni, you know, I was thinking about it last night. If someone had to ask me in the middle of the night at 2 a.m., what do you do? There are just two things that we want to do. We want to depopulate prisons and grave sites, because these perpetrators eventually, if they don't die, being these perpetrators and evil people, they are going to go to prison. And prisons don't rehabilitate them. They get there and they find other men who've done other wrong things, and it's a mess of men put together. So the inception of Dlalisa Moyeni is to want to put a positive self-image in this young man's life. And before I go a little further there, I just want to reiterate Vikki's message and what Lerato has said, that Women's Month should not be an August thing. We should do it every day. We should do it even amongst ourselves as women in the stores. You know, sometimes I remember one time I was in a plane and my sons were being chaotic and they were running around, and you know, you get these women who look at you like, we see you don't have it together, and you know, that judgmental look. Women empowerment also can come in a form of, you can see that I'm panicking, you can see I'm frustrated. Looking down on me doesn't help my situation. But if you help me, because you know, as an outside person, maybe you might become, I'm frustrated, I'm all over the place. So you help me with the kids and you say, listen to mommy, you see mommy's not well. You know, that is an empowerment. It can go longer than us making a bee-hoo-ha on the month of August. So I wish we could have that mentality of constantly empowering each other. And you know, Lerato said earlier on that she was supported by men at the police station more than she was by women. Chances are the women in the police station were saying, what was she doing? What was she wearing? You know, things like that. They are things that make you as a woman, when you see other women, to feel disempowered and to feel that, where do I go if I can't even tell my own mother? So I think we need to change the way we treat each other as women, firstly, before we can want support outside our gender. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And going back to my, to what the organization does, we have a very long-term program that we want to run. And the results thereof will not be seen until these young men are in their 20s or, you know. So if, let's say we take a boy today and he's 8 years old, we can only see the results of what the organization does in 10 to 15 years time. I was telling my husband that I don't want us to be so quantity orientated that we've rehabilitated 20,000 boys, or I want us to start with 12 boys. That's what we want to do. We want to take 12 boys. There's a program, a food drive that we run every Wednesday. We see there every Wednesday already young men who would curse if you don't give them food. If the food finishes, they're the ones to insult you. They're the ones to look down upon you. They're the ones to make snares and things like that. So already, if nothing is done in these young men's life, imagine what will happen in 10 years from now. They're going to make someone else's daughter or partner cry because they were not, those bad habits were not curbed when they were young. So we want to focus on 12 young men to a point where we even know their families, their immediate families and our extended families, because one of the programs that we have, the first module is to look at these young men's life. How did they grow? Because the first 7 years of a child's life, they, like, you concrete or you fortified who that young person will be. So if that 7-year-old or a 5-year-old was neglected by their father, or the father is absent, already there's rejection there. So it doesn't help later on to wanna find out what happened to this young man. So the organization, I don't want to go in length in what we are going to do, but we want to curb the problems that we see today so that they don't keep reoccurring in the future. So these 12 young men, we are going to mentor them. You know, we're going to partner with other organizations that would probably be stronger in self-image, changing their self-image, or whatever that will be available, we would want to partner with them. But we are going to identify these boys, screen them and see what is it that we can do for them. And where we can't, partner with other organizations that can help us so that we don't have another Lerato in future who's going to cry and say, someone did this to me. And we would rather have people who will say that, you know, I was in this program when I was 8 years old. These people took me in. I was violent. My father rejected me, but because I had positive role models in my life, I changed my decision. I changed my path. And because we see these young men every Wednesday and we see what happens, you know, poverty makes people's minds change. Poverty changes, you know, when you're fed. I think some of the things that these young men do, they are driven by hunger, but it's not the only problem. So by feeding them for that one day, we get to help them not to go do something that is not right. So in the long run, we want to find ourselves in a position where we have changed a course of a young man's life. They will not end up being in prison. They will not end up dead or killing someone. So that is the main aim of Dlalisa Moyeni, to take young men and put them in the path that will help them to be better citizens, to be better fathers, to be better brothers, to be better partners and husbands and etc. So that is what we are all about, and we have a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do. So yeah, back to you, Christina.
Oh, Tumisang, thank you so much. That just gives one so much hope, and I'm sure that each and every one of those boys that you touch will also pass it forward to somebody else. And in that way, we can develop a community where we live free of violence and free of the harm that's currently being. So thank you so much for the phenomenal work that you are doing. So can I just check with Brandon if there are any questions in the chat box?
Let me just checking, Christine. Chat messages in the chat box. We have one question. Christine's gone. This is technology, guys.
Yeah. Even Lerato Charlotte is gone.
Charlotte is also gone. Yes, we're trying to fix it. It's love it or hate it, it's here to stay.
Definitely.
Yes. So we're just waiting for the question quickly. I think Brandon's trying to unmute the person. So Charlotte's. Okay, what's the question from Umihani?
Hi, everyone. This is Umihani Khan. I just wanted to know if we should wait for Cassandra, perhaps, as well as Charlotte. I see they're not on.
We're trying to get Charlotte sorted out. Christine is out. Okay, you can carry on, Umihani. No worries.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay, actually, this is a comment rather than a question.
All right.
And I would like to applaud Charlotte on being so brave, discussing the abuse and violence that she was exposed to. It takes a really strong individual to do so. And as you had said, Vikki, you added that if there was more media hype and attention paid on these issues, that will bring more awareness and more contribution in order to make a difference.
Yes.
You know, so I'd like to thank all speakers for their input. And as Tumisang had said earlier, that nobody in their right minds would do such horrific acts to another individual, another human being. So yes. Education is key. And I'd like to thank Dlalisa Moyeni, you know, on the phenomenal work that they're doing, and may all their future endeavors be as successful as they hope.
Thank you so much, Umihani.
Thank you, Umihani.
You're welcome.
Thank you
Thanks
for your
a lot, guys.
feedback.
No problem.
Great. Yes, just to add on there, we are wanting to start the campaign and the progress in terms of empowering women and focusing on the achievements and focusing on and celebrating women every day, and teaching our boys to how to treat women and how to behave and what's right and what's wrong. And a backhanded comment is hurtful and could lead to further abuse, you know. So I think Tumisang's and Bongani's foundation is doing just that. And Tumisang, just to add on to what you've said, you are right. The boys come in and make comments and are abusive when it comes to the food running out. The same boys that are going to go home and project that abuse to the women in their family, be it their mothers or their sisters or even if it's their little sisters, you know, and the girls are brought up in that environment to accept it. And when they become adults, and they have an adult treating them in that way, they think it's acceptable. So we have to curb it at grassroots levels. We have to curb it at, like you used when we had a conversation, Tumisang, the Zulu proverb, and you said, bend a reed while it's young. So yes. You are training, or you're teaching, and you are empowering boys as well to be better men. So Umihani, thank you for your comments. Any other questions? There's from Margaret, a message. Is it on the chat box? Okay, come help me, Brandon. Sorry, guys, we have a message that we're going to read.
This is really just from Margaret Vazakili, who wishes to thank all of the panel for the roundtable discussion, saying that it's so refreshing to hear a call to focus on empowerment and uplifting of women, as well as working with boys from the tender age. Keep up the good work, ladies.
Great. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you for those wonderful comments. I'm glad everyone's enjoying or has enjoyed the chat and the discussion. We'd like to take it forward, and should there be any further questions or people want to join in further on the conversation, you're welcome to contact us. We'll have the details put up after the presentation or after the table discussion. There we go. So
there it is.
Dlalisa Moyeni Foundation, they are based in Mamelodi, and we want to thank you, Tumisang, for the great work that you are doing, for the amazing work that you're doing with the boys, and hence women are benefiting from it. And we also want to encourage people to join the program which is under the foundation called Beautiful Girl, and that's focusing on women, on girls, and teaching them what's acceptable and what's not. Madelein, thank you for your time. Thank you for your input. It's been really, really remarkable. I think we, as a panel, we understand the mindset and the character of an abuser. And we just need to be mindful of that going forward. Lerato?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Lerato. Charlotte, thank you for your amazing story and testimony. It's, I think it's opened the minds of everyone that's joined in today, and you were very brave. And when I see you now, it's difficult to imagine the abused young girl, because you're so empowered and you're so uplifted and you're so strong in your character. And we just see you growing from strength to strength. Right.
Thank you very much, Vikki. And I'd like to say thank you to everyone. You've shown me support. Without support, I don't think I'd be where I am today. So I'd like to thank you very, very much. Vikki, you played a very big role in my life without you noticing.
Thank you.
From the time you welcomed me on Aphrodite Company, you opened up to me to an extent that I took you as my mother. Hence, I'm saying you are the best mom ever.
Thank you.
You're one person that listens very carefully and attentively to other people's experience in life. So I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you. And to Madelein, thank you very much for your wise words. And I've taken note of some of the things that I should do from now on. Yes, I am brave enough to say I've been abused, but have I healed? That's the question. Yes. So thank you very much for your words. Thank you for encouraging women as well. Thank you very much to you too, Christine. I think now people will get to the point whereby even they are abused at work, and they'll start realizing it's still abuse. It's not only at home, but also at work. If you are abused at work, please speak up, take back your power. Thank you very much, guys. And I'd like to thank everyone who has supported me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte. We have one more message from V. Simpson. Says, thanks for the insightful discussion. Well done. Charlotte, I salute your courage and braveness. I celebrate you, women of power.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if I could just maybe say a final word, Vikki, thank you for your passion and hard work in putting all of this together. I know you have worked very hard behind the scenes with Quentin and Tumisang to make this happen. I think we've taken a huge step today, thanks to you. And Charlotte, for your bravery today. I would like to leave you with some special words, but this applies to each and every one of you. And I just want to say in closing that women, you are power. You are brave, you have courage, you have strength, you have resilience, you are unique, you are loved, you are supported, you are enough, you are phenomenal. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time, for taking time out on a Saturday morning to join us. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
God bless.
Thank you.